The Indiana Fever continue to make massive moves in free agency, signing Sophie Cunningham and DeWanna Bonner. And you guys, I don't even think they're done.
For months, we watched in frustration as Caitlin Clark became the target of relentless aggression, pushed, shoved, and disrespected by WNBA players who saw her as an easy mark. From Chendi Carter's infamous cheap shot to the terrifying moment when Clark nearly had her eyes gouged out, the message was clear. Opponents were willing to get physical. But what they didn't anticipate was the Indiana Fever paying close attention. And now,
you guys, Sophie Cunningham was traded to the Indiana Fever for Nalissa Smith and a pick. The Indiana Fever also acquired forward Jaylen Brown. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, I am not familiar with her game. She is going to be only a second-year WNBA player. So we will have to see how her game translates to the Indiana Fever. But Sophie Cunningham was such a huge signing from the Indiana.
Sophie Cunningham has officially touched down in Indiana in what might be one of the biggest steals of WNBA free agency. A one-year deal for just $100,000 after wrapping up a bargain contract with the Phoenix Mercury. Let's be clear, this is absolute highway robbery. The Fever just secured one of the league's toughest, most lethal shooters for next to nothing. But more importantly, they just gave Caitlin
Clark to add more space to the court. And that is something with Natasha Howard, you have a threat in her scoring the basketball and her bag is pretty deep. And then obviously you have that veteran leadership. Obviously we know that Kelsey Mitchell can score the ball. Aaliyah Boston is expanding her game and she's a threat inside. You have Caitlin Clark, but now you get someone like Sophie who is also going to just create so much more space on the floor. Teams are not going to be able to face guard Caitlin like they were, picking her up full court, double teaming her, all of these things, because there are now more threats on the court, including Sophie. But honestly, the biggest part about her game that I think is just going to translate so well to the Fever, I just love the energy that she brings. She seems like a hard worker. She seems like she loves the game of basketball. And I think when the Fever are thinking about players that they want to surround Caitlin with and players that they want to build this dynasty with, which I believe that they're trying to do, they have to think about the mindsets of these players also. And so I think we know she can shoot, she can defend, she's athletic, she's tall, but she also brings this just grit and energy that this team is really going to thrive.
Of Sophie Cunningham isn't just tough, she's an absolute It
really is remarkable what Ogumake is doing her 12th season. And Cunningham took a shot. She goes down hard.
For years, she has earned a reputation as one of the WNBA's most fearless competitors. She thrives on physicality, never backs down from a fight, and has a knack for getting under her opponent's skin. If Chendi Carter or any of Caitlin Clark's past aggressors think they can pull the same antics now, they are in for a rude awakening. Sophie Cunningham is a relentless force, and the moment
Caitlin Clark is now a member of the new Indiana Fever. Remember what they got the big five. They have five. The top 24 scorers in the WNBA last season. And you know what? The tied top scorer, like I think there was a couple of points between Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. They both averaged 19.2 points per game. The tied top scorer last season isn't even in this picture. Kelsey Mitchell is clearly going to start. Sophie Cunningham's clearly going to come off the bench as a hell of a bench player, to be completely.
And let's not forget, she's not just muscle. Sophie Cunningham is putting up 18 points per game while shooting a scorching 45% from three. She's not just here to protect Caitlin Clark. She's here to help her win. Indiana just unlocked a whole new level of offensive firepower and versatility. With Sophie on the floor, teams can no longer afford to double-team Caitlin without paying the price. Her lethal shooting makes it a nightmare scenario for opposing.
Clark, absolutely ridiculous.
You haven't been paying attention. Now's the time to wake up. Indiana Fever is making a serious play for the 2025 WNBA championship. Caitlin Clark was already the league's most electrifying offensive weapon, but with Kelsey Mitchell's massive contract renewal, the Fever locked in one of the best scoring guards in the game. Now, with the arrival of Sophie Cunningham, Indiana has built one of the most dangerous backcourts in women's basketball.
Is she laughing?
Is she laughing? She is laughing.
Crazier, this move exposes the weaknesses of players like Nalissa Smith. Nalissa is a solid player, but let's be real. Sophie Cunningham is simply a better shooter, better defender, and better competitor. When you add Cunningham's toughness and range to Indiana's core, suddenly they aren't just an exciting team. They're a legitimate powerhouse. This isn't just about building a good team anymore. This is about building a championship team. Before this signing, teams could get away with targeting Caitlin Clark. They could shove her, foul her, and test her limits knowing she didn't have a true enforcer on the roster. Now that's over with. Sophie Cunningham standing guard Caitlin Clark has the space she needs to dominate. No more sneaky elbows, no more dirty plays without consequences. Because the second it happens, Sophie will be right there, making sure it never happens again. This is the missing piece. Indiana Fever needed a team that was once just seen as rebuilding and has now flipped the script entirely. They are not waiting for a championship window to open. They are kicking the door down. Mark my words. Indiana Fever just took a massive pole position for
in WNBA circles. They must be all talking about, let's add the two slow-footed centers and try play them together. Atlanta Dream over what more people should be talking about is Indiana their additions. They're talking about shooters on shooters on shooters. It's going to be tough to.
They already had the league's biggest superstar in Caitlin Clark. They already had a lethal scorer in Kelsey Mitchell. And now, they've added the perfect enforcer and elite shooter in Sophie Cunningham. This is a franchise-altering moment. The WNBA thought Clark would be an easy target forever, that they could keep roughing her up without consequences. But Indiana Fever just sent a clear message. Those days are over. The Fever have arrived. The 2025 WNBA championship is within reach, and the rest of the league should be very afraid.
When the Fever are thinking about players that they want to surround Caitlin with and players that they want to build this dynasty with, which I believe that they're trying to do, they have to think about the mindsets of these players also. And so I think we know she can shoot, she can defend, she's athletic, she's tall, but she also brings this just grit and energy that this team is really going to.
Indiana Fever were just another team, a franchise in limbo, waiting for young talent to develop and hoping things would eventually fall into place. But those days are over. This isn't a slow, patient rebuild. This is an all-out assault on the WNBA. The Fever aren't chasing potential anymore. They are not drafting players and praying they blossom into stars 5 years from now. They are done waiting. That's why they sacrificed their 8th overall pick, because they don't need another prospect. They need winners. They need warriors. And they found them. Indiana didn't just sign any veteran. They landed Natasha Howard, a 3-time champion who has stood at the top of the mountain. She knows what it takes to win. She knows what it feels like to hoist that trophy and to break.
Well, we will hear from John Quell in just a moment. Oh, nice backdoor cut. And Willoughby lays it in on a beautiful pass from Natasha Howard. Inbound to Howard. Lorella Kubai, the rookie, into the game as Howard.
And now, she's bringing that championship mindset to Indiana. Howard isn't just another stretch 4. She's a defensive nightmare. She runs the floor like a guard, knocks down mid-range shots with ease, and plays elite, switchable defense. The kind that dismantles game plans before opponents even step on the court. Now, let's talk about what happens when you pair her with Caitlin Clark. Clark is already the best passer in the WNBA. That's not hype, it's fact. Her vision, her ability to read defenses, and her unreal knack for threading the perfect pass before defenders even see it coming. It's a level of playmaking the league hasn't witnessed in years. Now add Natasha Howard to that mix. Picture this. Clark pushes the tempo, flying up the court at full speed. Howard, one of the fastest bigs in the game, beats her defender down the floor in stride. Clark threads a pinpoint pass, one only Howard can catch, for an easy bucket. And here's the scary part. This isn't a...
And able to turn that into 3. Ionescu, ball fake, attack, hit, Howard, hit, from 3. For this Liberty opener. Carrington turns the corner, gets rejected.
This is going to happen again. And again. And again. 11. Howard's ability to run the floor, catch tough passes, and finish through contact is going to make Indiana's fast break absolutely unstoppable. And when teams try to collapse on her in the paint, Clark will kick it out to Kelsey Mitchell or Sophie Cunningham, 2 players who can knock down threes with ice in their veins. Indiana didn't just add scoring and defense. They added grit. They added toughness. They added the one thing the Fever have been missing all along, because let's be honest, the WNBA let Caitlin Clark get bullied. They let...
If they want a point guard, Lucy Olsen, Van Lith are available. Rory Harmon might be there. Georgia Amore definitely won't. Sanaya Rivers might be there at 19. I'm trying to think who else. You know what? Use one of those two. Use your third round pick on Hayley Cavender. Just get her at training.
Sophie Cunningham isn't here to make friends. She's here to make sure nobody touches Caitlin Clark again without facing serious consequences. She's tough, physical, and fearless. You want to take a cheap shot at Clark? Fine. Now you've got to deal with Sophie. The WNBA isn't ready for this. The Fever aren't playing the long game anymore. They are not here to develop talent. They are here to win. With Caitlin Clark running the show, Kelsey Mitchell torching defenses, Sophie Cunningham locking down the perimeter, and Natasha Howard anchoring the front court. Indiana isn't just aiming for a playoff spot. They're coming for a championship. They don't need a top draft pick. They don't need rookie.
Is the reigning rookie of the year in the WNBA. Haven't seen her yet. Laney's back in the lineup, and she's off to the races. She'll take the 2 points easy.
This isn't the same Indiana Fever team that the league could push around anymore. This is a different beast. One with the league's brightest young superstar in Caitlin Clark, elite scorers like Kelsey Mitchell and Sophie Cunningham, and a roster loaded with toughness and championship DNA. With Natasha Howard in the mix, this is a team that isn't asking for respect. They are taking it. The WNBA better be ready, because the Indiana Fever just became a serious problem. But not everyone on Indiana's roster is going to love the changes when you bring in elite, battle-tested veterans like Howard and Cunningham. That means someone else is getting pushed to the bench, and that someone is Nalissa Smith. What the Fever need isn't just talent. They need players who can elevate the team to the next level with Howard on the roster. Smith is going to have to take a step back. She'll still get her minutes, but she'll be coming off the bench instead of starting. And it's worth noting that Nalissa Smith is part of the Sophie...
Third quarter, it's been Indiana's undoing lately as Smith finds some space, the shot fake, and Smith draws the foul. Well, this is just going to be one of those heavyweight type of battles. You've got so much talent and so much size in the post. It's been a physical matchup so far. 12 seconds in, we see Nalissa Smith taking hard contact there above.